You ready?
Yeah, sure.
We don't have any fancy intros, but all right, go for it.
Okay. Welcome to Turk Talk
Where we discuss the compilation of Final Fantasy VII.
and spill Shinra's secrets.
I'm the director.
And I'm second command.
And we are a fan-made Shinra News Network here to report the canon, the philosophy, and psychology behind all of 7.
As well as discuss hot takes and headcanons.
And with over 42 combined years of 7 knowledge under our belts,
we want to help connect dots to this extremely large compilation of a game.
So thank you all for joining us today. With as many videos as there are about the main cast and everything, we pretty much wanted to talk about Shinra and its beginnings. There are not a lot of information about Shinra, Before Crisis, or its Turks out there.
It's always about the main characters.
Always about them.
Which we get it. They're the main characters.
They're the golden children. So Before Crisis takes place 6 years before the original, and it's going to be talking and focusing, surfacing of the of Avalanche and Midgar and the conflict with Shinra. So this is actually going to be overlapping the events of Crisis Core, which takes place 7 years before the original events of 7, leading up to the beginning of it. You play as the Turks, seeing the dark and dirty work of Shinra and try to cover up alongside the extreme measures Avalanche takes to go against Shinra. So a lot of the times there's actually going to be coverage about how Avalanche has infiltrated Shinra to try to steal a lot of their secrets too. And in turn, they actually end up making their own form of soldiers, but they're called ravens.
Yes.
So, fun fact. In the same sense of Final Fantasy VII being the first of its kind with a gaming platform with PlayStation 1, Before Crisis was the very first of its kind to tackle mobile gaming, back when mobile gaming wasn't prominent. So you think of all the mobile games that you have on your phone now, we did not have that back in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That is something we did not have.
A lot of the beep boop boops with all their clicking of the buttons back then, but nowadays you can just literally just swipe and all that stuff back then.
Absolutely. So pretty much before we're getting into the heart of talking about Before Crisis, I want to take time to actually really appreciate all the effort and the team that has put into the game in general to really make it for what it is. So just as Final Fantasy VII was originally supposed to be on like a Super Nintendo, but it wasn't going to cut it. Like, no. And then they were talking about trying to put it on another system. No. PlayStation 1 came around and they were able to strike a deal with Sony and to be able to produce it and be one of the first really prominent 3D games. Not the first, but like one of the prominent games back in 1997. So yes, as much as people can sit there and kind of like laugh about the graphics now or struggle and say it's kind of difficult to play, which I understand completely, it was still very mind-blowing for its time. So me, as a kid, going from Sonic the Hedgehog to Final Fantasy VII,
Unreal.
blew my mind. It blew my mind. So for Before Crisis to be one of the first mobile games to really carry out and carry that torch was another thing of Square Enix to really just be tackling something so brand new and being ambitious with it.
Always ahead of their time. Always ahead of their time.
Absolutely. They were so ambitious. And just to let you know, it wasn't like on, clearly, but it wasn't on phones like this. It was going to be on phones that are actually like a flip phone, which actually somebody recently just found a secondhand flip phone that has the demo of Before Crisis on it, which is a rare find. And it's so cool to see like the different vibrations that happen with certain actions. And like you have to click with like the dial in the center. It's really, really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, the concept characters are Tetsuya Nomura, producer and head of the mobile game initiative.
Yukimasa Ito.
Yeah, got together to discuss the concept of the idea of a spin-off game that would challenge Square Enix to produce a game for another new system, which was the cell phone. It started as a team of 11, which eventually grew as a team of 18 who worked to manage Before Crisis.
And then they
It's a very small team.
It is a very small team for a game production. They ended up also having like some subcontractors and stuff like that too for some smaller things. But let's see, it took the team 12 months to develop the game before it was finally released, and they brought the aspect of Final Fantasy VII pre-rendered backgrounds over to Before Crisis. So fun.
Very smart and very, I don't know, it's very like simple but still beautiful at the same time.
Yes. So it's really interesting to kind of see how Final Fantasy VII's pre-rendered background, like that kind of feeling, that nostalgic like 90s feeling, because like a lot of other games in the 90s also had that pre-rendered background feel. We actually ended up watching a video recently that was talking about the pre-rendered era and how clever it is. But the really interesting thing that I learned about the pre-rendered backgrounds when it comes to Before Crisis is that they actually sculpted all of the backgrounds in 3D in Maya, which I had no idea even existed back then.
Probably
Still to this day,
the Maya,
like
the
the
first
Maya
version.
And then they would convert them over to 2D images to give it that same similar feeling of the original Final Fantasy, but for a mobile game. The game was brainstormed for a couple years before it's released on September 24th on 2004 for Japanese mobile phone brand Docomo, and later for SoftBank and Yahoo on January 30th, 2007, which is 3 years later.
Good old Yahoo.
And then Easy Web on April 5th, 2007.
So you needed an account to play Final Fantasy Mobile and purchase Final Fantasy points, which, can you explain a little bit of the Final Fantasy points?
Yeah, so a Final Fantasy points essentially are just kind of like the in-game currency. This was actually probably one of the first mobile games to actually offer a subscription based thing versus how like our modern games are with their microtransactions. So this is kind of in a sense like a microtransaction thing.
Sure.
However, the Final Fantasy points, you needed like 500 a month, which is essentially, it was 525 yen, which adjusted to 540 later. So it was roughly back then the equivalent of like $5. So you had to pay $5 a month essentially to access and play Before Crisis, but it gave you all access to it.
But it makes sense because subscriptions nowadays are still kind of the thing. They're just even more expensive nowadays.
Oh yeah,
$5
absolutely.
but nothing back then, you know?
Yeah, and for instance, even if you're looking at Ever Crisis, where it is not based on subscription or anything like that, there are the microtransactions, and honestly, I've only spent like $14 on it when it first came out as a treat. But even then, on
Never Crisis.
But
Right.
even then, as long as you check in and you do the grind, you'll be fine. It's one of those games you actually don't really need to spend money on.
Right.
Oh
yeah, and so on the day of its release, there was over 1.6 million accesses on the first day of beta testing, which caused the server to crash.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of people.
Yep.
But I mean, I feel like I would have been one of them if I had known back then.
Oh yeah, because it's like there were so many people who were just opening and just checking and trying to get onto the server, which caused it to crash.
Right.
So
it had over 200,000 users and was considered the most successful mobile gaming of its time during an era when gaming on phones wasn't very prominent.
This is very true. Again, there wasn't a lot of games that were on mobile, so this was very ambitious.
Yes. In 2006, there was discussion about releasing the game localized in English for Sprint/Verizon phones, but even by 2006, Western phones did not have the capability to handle the game, which varied around 500 kilobytes
Yeah.
in data size, and thus it was canceled.
Which is truly a heartbreak due to the fact that it's just like it's really interesting, especially because like I lived in Japan from 2007 to 2008, and granted that's why it's like I never really knew or had like my hands on one of those phones.
If only.
There wasn't really a lot of advertisement, despite the fact that it had been kept going for quite some time. But yeah, it's just interesting to know that like our phones still were not up to speed. Like it's only 500 kilobytes, which is not
anything.
Even a megabyte. Like holy shit. So yeah, the unique thing about this game too is that it utilizes the camera that's on the cell phone. So you pretty much can be like pointing it at any color materia or like any color thing, and it would produce a materia that would correspond with whatever color. So say like I did a red, you would get fire, but maybe I did something that's like a really brighter red, you would get Fira. So it's really interesting to see how like they utilize that technology to be able to
someone made a really, let me define that post. We'll maybe post it in or edit in post. That someone shared all the colors that you would, take pictures of, and it would do the thing. So I thought that was really cool. I don't know where I saw it recently, but someone posted it, and I thought that was like, oh, okay, cool. Because obviously back then, even the use of camera was new, I feel like.
Yeah, like cameras on, I think I looked it up, where cameras were starting to get used on cell phones around 2002 at the earliest. But even then, it's very crunchy. You could think of like a Nokia phone and stuff like that. But yeah, AR games before AR games were really big. Absolutely, I completely agree.
Absolutely.
That was something which transitioned into. So actually, before I get into the details of that whole thing too, it's just like you could get a summon materia only through the means of utilizing the online network. So not only this, utilizing the camera to make your own materia, it was also one of the first games where you can actually utilize an online network to play with people, and it was one of the first of its kind to be able to not have the app open and still have it running. So if you wanted to receive things from your friends, that was a possibility. So the Turks select a materia, and if 3 other Turks are in possession of the matching materia, then the summoning is successful. After materia backup has been invoked, the Turk must wait until the materia backup gauge has been refilled before using it again.
Which is very cool. I love that concept as well, that you would find local friends to be able to play with. I mean, now we got Pokemon Go. You can play around and trade with friends. Back then there really wasn't an option, but they gave this option to be able to work together with other Turks.
Absolutely. So, which leads into, despite the fact it got canceled in 2006 to coming over to Western phones, in 2010, director Hajime Tabata discussed remaking it for the Nintendo 3DS, expressing he was intrigued by the technology. The 3DS's capability with dual screen and camera would have made it for a good console to utilize the materia and camera ability.
God, it really would. But now, rest in peace. Rest in peace to 3DS. But I think would have been absolutely perfect for it.
Absolutely, because for them to be able to utilize the camera for Before Crisis to get materia, the 3DS would have been absolutely perfect. Even the regular DS had that small camera on it, not the 3D capability, but it still had a small camera.
Yes,
but the 3DS,
crispy as hell, but
yes, absolutely. But it would have been absolutely perfect if it was on the 3DS, and the graphics would have just been perfect for that system. You would keep that nostalgia of even that cell phone kind of vibe, but probably a little bit more HD kind of remake to it.
Right.
But still, very, very pre-rendered background, that kind of stuff. So,
well, that's why we're hoping for it to eventually come to Ever Crisis, because now the phone's capability to take a million photos and zoom in on your pores, the concept of that.
That's interesting to think about. That even though if Before Crisis would come to Ever Crisis, would they utilize that capability
They have to. They have to. That's the whole point right here.
Yeah, to maybe utilize that ability to capture and maybe introduce something new. Going back to the Ever Crisis talk, it would be really interesting to see if they would utilize that old school way of being let's introduce the ways to get materia and by taking photos of things.
Sure.
I think that would be absolutely amazing. Final Fantasy Mobile, which is the network that you had to pay to access Before Crisis, Dirge of Cerberus, any other games that they had on mobile, it was, let's see.
Wait a minute, they had Dirge of Cerberus on mobile?
Yeah, they had Dirge of Cerberus, Lost Episodes is what they were called.
Oh, okay.
And they were on, it was only 2 or 3 of them, which we will cover during the Dirge of Cerberus era, which will probably be a couple of years from now.
Yeah.
But the access to Before Crisis finally was shut down 13 and a half years later, and it closed on March 31st of 2018.
Which is pretty dang wild. It started, what it says? It started in
2004, September in 2004.
So 14 years it was just hanging out, doing its thing. And, it sucks. And that's why we're hoping to bring people on here, obviously. People who actually played the game.
Yeah, if we
willing to talk.
Yeah, and if we also talk about it, hopefully that is something that Square Enix will know that there are people interested in playing Before Crisis.
It had so many cool things that you could do on it, and it really was never given a chance to shine, especially here in the Western.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's very interesting to be able to see with Ever Crisis, again, that's one of those things that when they promoted Ever Crisis and they were we're going to cover everything. And you saw the Before Crisis thing. We're seeing merch of the Before Crisis Turks as a gaming mousepad in their store. And it's just please just give it to us. That's all we want.
Give us the crumbs.
Yep.
Ultimately, Before Crisis has remained one of the very few Final Fantasy media to not be exported over the Western audiences, as we just said.
Yeah. But
with the creation of Ever Crisis on current mobile devices, Square Enix discussed how it will cover the entire compilation from Before Crisis up to Dirge of Cerberus, which they did say. So as we are crossing our fingers, crossing our toes, that we want it to be here. But we're getting what we got so far. We've got the First Soldier. We've got the original, and we've got Before Crisis. Not, I mean, we've got Crisis Core.
Crisis Core. So, yeah, and there is that artist that did join the Before Crisis server today that used to play the game back in middle school.
I know.
Yeah, so we had that person who joined, so I'm really excited to hear about that.
Yes.
There, however, despite the fact that it is not here for us to play, there are fan-made recreations of the game that is by Richard Wilker in RPG Maker, as well as a fan-made original story game called Before Crisis Cisne, which was created by Obese Bear and produced by Davina. And
if you tried to play the RPG Maker, and it's not the same.
So no, I appreciate the efforts that went into it. It is very difficult to handle. I find the difficulty
too difficult.
Yeah, it doesn't handle well, but like I understand it's one person who made it, and I am still very appreciative that they wanted to bring that to our audience. As for a lot of this other stuff too, we'll be sharing our resources and everything, that a lot of the things that we have gotten this from, a lot of the information, I have it all cited and everything too, but shout out to Turk Leader, who is another Tseng role player that I met back in the Tumblr era of my days of like 2012. They have an incomplete scripted out Before Crisis, everything except for I think special episode, maybe no. I think there's everything. So, and then there's also Kurado, who joined our the Before Crisis server too, that was discussing or has a huge compilation. Like I am so grateful for this person for gathering as much information. A lot of the other things have been me having to translate now defunct websites. I've gained access to the old Before Crisis website, which was really cool to see.
See, this is what I don't think we have it ready, but it would be nice to be able to like record the screen, even going onto that defunct website, because
I can go over to it right the fuck now.
I mean, if you wanted to show out how it works, it's kind of fun and interactive.
Yeah,
the way they did it.
So we'll hop over before we jump into a little bit more of the gameplay. But I would love to be able to show you guys how this looks. And
yeah, it's fun looking. Again, they really put a lot of love into this game for not a lot of Westerners to really enjoy it, which is unfortunate. But
yeah, I've had to utilize the Wayback Machine quite often for this, which has been great. Don't get me wrong. Look, there's Kurado. It's so funny because there's so many different old forums I've also had to access, and I've seen a lot of these people in the fandom for 20 plus years. And it's funny because like I've used to be very shielded about being part of the community, because again, it's very nerve-wracking sometimes to join communities.
Yes.
But all my resources, references.
Yeah.
All right.
Eventually, when all this is complete, we will share everything, maybe in just one giant Google Drive or something.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That has all the resources from everyone we've graciously taken their information as well.
Interesting how this website is even accessed is that it starts off with a tiny, tiny, tiny little phone. You try clicking it and it's like, wait, bitch. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. And you have to sit there and you wait. You try clicking it and you're like, no, wait. And then and it starts ringing. Now that we've covered how Before Crisis was even created and how it was started and like the appreciation for the hardworking team that was behind it, shout out to Tetsuya Nomura, also the creator of Kingdom Hearts, as well as our beloved Final Fantasy VII. Like all this, like the character designs and shit like that. Great. Thank you. All this stuff. So if you want to go ahead, we're going to talk about the gameplay of how this game works.
Yeah. So originally, they were planning on releasing 2 to 4 episodes a month and not go over a year. However, they ended up with 24 episodes, an epilogue, and 3 special episodes, including for Sung, for Legend, and a final episode for Reno, which released a total of over 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then the first episode was released on September 24th, 2004, And then the final episode, special episode Reno, was released on September 13th, 2007, to promote along with Crisis Core's release.
Yeah, so that episode actually happens at the same time Crisis Core is happening, and that was probably one of the bigger episodes I've actually had to break down due to...
It was very big.
Very big, because it was the big wapow Crisis Core is getting released, so we're going to promote it. So a fun tidbit, too, that if you are watching Advent Children, the phones that they are using in Advent Children are also the phones that you can use to play Before Crisis. So in their own way, it was kind of like a cross-promotion, sponsor, not sponsor. It's the equivalent of being like, oh, here's a Coke in the background, but it's a phone that's in the movie.
Where can you find a phone?
And, you say that, it makes me want to jump right into that one thing, but a lot of times, just to kind of also... I know it's not about Advent Children, but I can't help it. I have to talk about it. But,
I mean, it's fine.
But with Advent Children, and I know how people are like, oh, Vincent's like, oh, where can I buy a phone? If you think about it, Shinra is the company that actually creates cars, the electronics, everything, and now it's destroyed. And so finding those limited resources like a car or a phone is very difficult. So, yeah, that was there's your fun little Advent Children thing.
Woo!
Okay, anyways, so the game's dialogue is the same no matter what character you pick. So you can name your characters whatever you desire. The only difference between the player characters is the difference in their status, their weapons, abilities, and limit breaks. But for the content of the episodes or the mission is the same for all the characters. The only small instances of different dialogue, which is presented during rescue mode, where a Turk will bust in to rescue another player on the network, like on the online network.
Love that.
So, for example...
I mean, well, we say that they're all the same, dialogue, but, was it really? We don't know. Again, we haven't played it, because we don't particularly really know if things were different, but it seems like it was all kind of just... It was the player Turk, whatever you chose, they said all the same things.
Absolutely.
From what we know of.
Oh, listen, I miss a good flip phone too, guys. I love... Harlow and I were literally talking about it. Our first phones were flip phones, a little click, 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 click. Love them.
I had a bright red, ugly, chunky little phone that, had, a fake, pull-out thing.
It's not fake. I mean, it was supposed to help, but, did it really?
No. Well, if it helped, mine was, literally plastic that I pulled out. It was for the aesthetic. That was it.
That's so
In
silly.
2006, that was my first phone.
Yeah.
It was the color of my fucking wig.
Yeah, I think 2005, 2006 was the first time I got my phone. So
yeah.
I think I was 16. So, so pretty much, for example, going back to rescue mode, you pretty much got to, the rescue mode is you fucked up a mission, and the only way to recover is having another person on your online network come and help. And so they would have I think each player Turk had their own quirkiness. And the only one that I can know of, which shocking, is shotguns. And she's just busting in. She's like, hey, I'm here to help you. And they're like, shut your mouth. And she's like, oh no, they spotted us, because she is seen very loud and boisterous. And so it's really fun to see how the Japanese community has really these little snippets, the very tiny little bits of canon that we get, ends up being very much kind of amplified. And we have some doujinshi, which if you don't know what doujinshi are, they are fan-made comics.
Do you want to show off the ones?
Yeah, you can grab them real quick.
Okay, let me show off the ones that we have. We have a couple.
We have a few. And what I really love to do is reading over them and translating them and seeing how everyone has a different take on each character, and even before I even knew that this is how some of the fandoms saw some of these characters, I also saw them the very same way, and it was very wonderful. I'm very, very happy. So
4 now, I think, right?
Huh?
4.
I think so. I don't have many. So
yes, it's a collection. We have a couple because.
So yeah, here's one of our doujin. If you want to give him a little close, perfect, fantastic. Flip it around if you want to show the backside. Oh, you can stand it up right. Perfect. So that one's a lot more two guns focused. This one was one of the more popular ones I saw back in the day, and I was very, 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 very happy. It's pretty much kind of one where they're all just kind of cooking together. Really, very lighthearted. I love it so, so, so much. This one, I am obsessed with the art. I love two guns, and then we have some Rod with his big old leak. And then the other one that I had, the last one that I have, which was another one that I saw that was popular back in the day, I managed to grab this one too. And I grabbed these about, I want to say 2011 or 2012, except for the very first one I showed you. That was the newer one that I got.
Yes, you just got that one.
So I will make it a task one of these days to be able to scan them in, to be able to share them, see if I can even get some help with translating, because it just takes a while. My Japanese is a lot more rusty than it used to be than when I lived there. So going ahead over from that, so speaking of the different modes of the games, from rescue mode, you have
the episode mode, which is essentially the story mode.
then you have free mode, which allows the player to play extra missions to gain experience points and items.
You got the rescue mode, which we kind of just discussed. Is if a player is defeated during the game's playthrough, you have two options. They were either restart and lose points, or allow themselves to be imprisoned. What?
Yeah, to be imprisoned. Yeah.
Afterward,
they like put you in jail, essentially.
Okay. Afterward, they must wait for other players in the network to rescue them. Imagine that. Imagine like not having any friends, and then like, you
Oh
lose,
my god.
and then you're just in the prison the entire time. You're just like
rotting away like katana.
No.
Weapon mode was where it allowed you to battle the Jade weapon, and the Jade weapon changed on how it looked depending on the region of Japan that you lived in, which I think is very cool. I think there was 6 different ways that this weapon could look.
Yeah, well, once again, I want to show off the image, but I don't think you don't have that, do you? Do you have those screenshots of
the weapons,
the different like what their versions were?
I believe I do. And then the last one.
Let's see, and weapon. And then the gold saucer, which is AKA mini games, include arm wrestling, fortune telling, super dunk, triple racing,
super dunk.
Triple racing, and the battle square, where you can battle against other Turk players. That'd been really cool. I mean, so it looks like even in Rebirth, we're gonna get a bunch of the same exact ones, right?
Yes.
Because it seems like a lot of these games are also in like OG as well.
Absolutely. So let's see if I can just. Hell yeah! I could just drag that shit over.
Woo!
Woo! Okay, so I'm just gonna put it right over Reno's face.
Fuck off.
So this is that's one of the Jade weapons. It looks like an airplane. Not as cool looking as a lot of the other Jade or the other weapons.
And that's you don't know exactly which region that's from, do you?
No, I'm not quite sure, because here's like another version of it too.
Ew!
I know.
Why does it look like that?
Why has it got so many arms? I would dunk legend. Thank God.
Big
Somebody
dunk.
has to.
Yeah.
And then the final Jade weapon, or like other variation, was this one, which kind of looks, I don't know. Look at the size of them. Actually,
that is.
Hold on, I have to cover.
That
I'm
is a
sorry.
full Evangelion angel at the bottom. You see that?
Yeah.
That is an angel.
Oh God, stop holding it. There we go. So as you can see, it looks like it does look like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It really does. It really, you're like, oh, it's time to
Dunk.
Dunk on Legend. So yeah, those are your different Jade weapons that you can battle depending on what region of Japan that you are on.
Right.
So, I don't know if I have any of the other screenshots of the actual
Weapons?
No, of there's the phone.
Yeah, show the phone.
So,
oh,
there we go.
the website wasn't working, but
The website wasn't working, but like you pretty much kind of got greeted by this phone. Like you open it and it brings it up and you can tap on there. I'm sure there might have been something back in the day where you can have a code and go onto the website and type in a code and you get something special.
That's fun.
But I'm
Not
not
anymore.
100% on that. So, good old flip phones.
Yeah.
Love it. 2 extra difficulties were setting. What?
I forgot about to mention the fucking snowboarding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Later on there was you say sticky, but they're actually very very matte. But
Mine's sticky.
that is literally all I do. I'm not kidding. I take I take my contour and I just smudge on with my finger and we did this probably in 20 minutes because I was like, we gotta go.
We've done
we gotta
this too many
go.
times.
We've done it so many times. We gotta fucking go.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fucking snowboarding game that was added later on, I think around 2007 as well. So 2 extra difficulty settings were also added with players that are easy to switch between these, which is normal difficulty. There was easy mode that was released in 2006 and allows the player to auto-evade incoming attacks and reduce damage taken, while hard mode was released in 2007 and meant for advanced users, increasing the damage dealt by enemy attacks. Pew, pew, pew. So,
Wow.
hell yeah, you know we're going to dive into it, but not super into it. But we're ready? we're going to talk about the Turks, babies.
All of them. All 85,000 that exist. Though we know 16, right? We know 16 Turks. But there's so many other ones. AKA, make your OCs.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You get a little bit of canon, then you grab one that you like and you run with it. So they discussed making a prequel of a game that leads up to 7 that focuses on the Turks as the playable characters. And one of the main reasons as to why they chose the Turks that were so popular amongst fans, especially with women. So,
the ladies
stares at my AFAB self. Oops.
You know. All right, so there's a total roster of 11 playable Turks that you can choose to play the game through.
Which actually now, looking at it, that number, I wrote that, is wrong.
Ooh!
There are, because there's 16 Turks in total, and there's only 2 of them that you cannot play, actually.
Which is?
Actually, there's only 1 you cannot play.
Legend.
No,
you can play
it's
Legend.
Rude. You cannot play Rude.
Yeah, it's
because
true.
even in the special episode of Reno, you're playing as Reno.
Yeah.
Special episode Tseng, you can play as Tseng and as Veld.
Yes.
And then in special episode Legend, you play as Legend.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
The game starts with 4 playable Turks for you to choose from, which originally was rod, gun, shotgun, and 2 guns.
Mm-hmm. After Chapter 7, once you unlocked that, you get access to spend in-game points and unlock Martial Arts F.
Mm-hmm.
After Chapter 9, you can access and unlock Martial Arts M.
Mm-hmm.
After Chapter 19, there's a lot of chapters.
Yes.
you have access to unlock Katana and Shuriken / Sisname.
Mm-hmm. After special episode, Legend is released late 2006, and once you've completed the game, it gives you the chance to use in-game currency to unlock him and play through him as well. And then upon the release of Before Crisis for Yahoo and Easy Web in 2007 is where Nunchuck and Knife came through. And that's typically actually, that's where it comes from, where it's like, since it's such late release, not a lot of people were either on there or they didn't really get a chance to really play. There's not a lot of information on there.
Yeah.
And yes, it's sad that you cannot play Rude. He's literally the only one that you are unable to play. And then, there are the instances of the game where you can play Veld and Tseng, but they're unplayable through the entire game. So you can only play Tseng and Veld during Tseng and Veld's thing. Because even Veld's is very small. It's like you're choosing to split off between the 2 of them, and you can go through Tseng's route or you can do Veld's route, and it eventually leads back up to each other. And it's really not too exciting, but it gives you a second to play with Veld, so that's cool.
It's very cool. You get to see how powerful Veld really is and the way he
Oh my god,
attacks.
yes. That was one of the things that Harlow was noticing when we were watching the playthrough, is that when you do play as Veld, his gun, his shooting off the fucking meteor that shoots out of his gun versus Tseng's tiny little pew pew.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see that. But yes, as much as we love to discuss the Turks, they will each have their own episode or with their Turk partner. This episode is going to be focusing on Before Crisis.
Yes.
Which finally you all have been waiting for and been very patient to respect the efforts that it took to make all of Before Crisis and all the fun technological things behind it.
It's a cool concept, right?
I think it's cool.
I think it's very cool and very unfortunate that we really never got a chance to be able to play it. So,
Mm-hmm. Tseng's Barbie gun. Pew pew.
Essentially.
So as we start talking about Before Crisis, we are actually not discussing Chapter 1. We are going to be going in the order of how it is on the timeline.
I mean, an interesting concept, really. If you can look at the timeline itself, it's actually taken place literally in the 90s?
It's taking place in the 90s. So
yeah, so
it's
in our timeline, but not really, you know?
So I made 2 timeline ones. One that actually has the full one, but this one is a more brought forward one. I didn't really get the full detail. We're just going to be coming in. I just
probably add that in Photoshop and make a stroke of white or something to see around it. It's hard to
I can add a stroke right now, I think. No, wait. No.
Alpha.
Whatever. Anyways, so this giant chunk that is missing in the center is pretty much when all of Final Fantasy VII is taken back. So this giant chunk where Reno is actually sitting in between, if you want to scooch over. Yeah, so there. That's actually pretty much where all of 7 kind of takes place. So what we are
It's all
going to
about
actually
me in the middle.
so this is the one thing about Before Crisis that we were not able to really necessarily get on the timeline, but what we are looking at for the timeline is going to be roughly be right about it's going to be right about here. So special episode song Before Crisis starts right about here. I was going to have another pointer image. My finger's going to have to work for now. Reno, please. Reno, please.
I'm helping.
So yeah, it's gonna be around 1999. It pretty much says 1999X, and then because pretty much shortly after that, what's gonna happen is that Legends is around the year 2000. So I'm assuming that it's probably gonna be around 1999. So that's kind of where it's gonna be at. And just to kind of give you guys another kind of like heads up, like this, it's gonna be here, and then fucking oh my god, OG starts here, and then
Right here?
yeah, starts about here. So OG is going to be starting around 2000. So that's actually like 8 years later. Make the pointer polygon cloud is spiky. Yeah, that's true. Honestly, we can do that.
Perfect.
We'll do that for next time. We'll definitely be a lot more prepared. So, anyways, that's the timeline for now.
Good enough. All right.
Shall we get this ball rolling?
Let's get this ball rolling with special episode Tseng.
And let me say, when we played the demo and we heard Sephiroth reading off the dates, I was like, oh, that's how you pronounce it.
I don't even remember what he said, though. So.
Can't remember for the life of me, so we're just going to wing it. But yeah, it's going.
It's fine. We'll just say year.
Mm-hmm.
So, Costa del Sol, year 1990XXXXX, which we think is 1999. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Predating an incident that happened in Calm, to which we do not divulge and share until we get to chapter 13.
Yeah, we cannot share that spoiler quite yet.
Our estimation places the occurrences in the middle/late 1990s, most likely before the turning of 0001. You are tasked as a rookie Turk. Tseng receives an assignment to probe the peculiar abduction of a Shinra guard from a Mako reactor under the command of his director, Chief Veld. Tseng is dispatched to investigate a mysterious unregistered vessel that has resurfaced in Costa del Sol harbor, believing that the motive behind kidnapping a reactor guard is to gather intel on the reactor itself. Tseng deems the rescue of the guard crucial before any weapon data secrets are divulged.
And also, people will also hear, like, there's two different names that you can have for Veld. It's Veld or Verdo.
Yes.
So it's both are right.
I think Verdo is more like it's professional, and the rest of the Turks call him Veld.
Yeah. So upon boarding the ship, Tseng encounters anti-Shinra militants patrolling its corridors. After defeating them, he reaches the control room, where he observes the kidnapped guard on a monitor. Tseng finds the tortured infantryman in a confinement room. The man reveals that the enemy has been purchasing stolen Shinra weapons from a black market seller and storing them aboard the ship. Despite the guard's insistence not to worry about him and instead prevent the data from falling into the wrong hands, Tseng, moved by compassion, declares there is nothing more precious than a life.
He cares. Internally criticizing himself for deviating from his job's common sense and compromising his orders, Tseng realizes that he is straying from the path of a Turk. Despite his recognition, he fails to grasp the gravity of his error. Torn between his duty to investigate the stolen weapons and his determination to complete the mission by rescuing the soldier, Tseng ultimately chooses the latter, making a daring escape from the ship with the imperiled man.
And also just to kind of give you a little time frame for how old Tseng would be, I think he's like in his early 20s. I believe, since it's 9 years prior, I think he's like 21 in this. 21, 20, because again, we don't know the date on it, so, but...
He's very passionate.
Yeah, so a few days later, Veld reprimands Tseng for succumbing to his guilty conscience, even when Tseng confesses that the soldier himself urged him to prioritize the weapons and data over his own life. The established principle is that Turks should always act in the best interests of Shinra. Veld, however, continues his lecture, seemingly more concerned with Tseng's own ego than respecting the soldier's pride. Tseng acknowledges the risk he imposed on everyone due to his fear of feeling guilty for following a Shinra soldier or allowing a Shinra soldier to perish.
Summoned to the president's office, President Shinra commands the Turks to obliterate the weapons and all related data while also uncovering the traitor within a company that provided information to weapons buyer. Veld informs Tseng that they will undertake the mission together, leaving Tseng astonished and feeling undeserving after his prior failure. He felt like he really didn't deserve it, and Veld's like, meh.
Yeah, Veld's like, no, you're coming with me. Even though you fucked up, you're coming with me.
We love Veld.
So, upon returning to the ship at Costa del Sol, Tseng queries Veld about his inclusion in the mission, given his past shortcomings. Veld insists that Tseng must take responsibility for his actions, emphasizing the significance of a Turk's duty to thoroughly complete a job. Veld encourages Tseng to cast aside his doubts and to stand proud once more. He urges Tseng that if the mission places him in jeopardy, not to prioritize rescuing Veld and to focus on the mission's success.
Do it?
Will he?
Will he? At the point in this chapter, Veld fights alongside you. After a few battles, you split up so that you can choose between a Tseng route or a Veld route. You can go back and choose them, essentially. Yeah. If you choose Veld's route, he will discover information about the traitor who leaked that weapon data. Veld's HP is higher and strength is stronger than Tseng's, and we talked about how you can see the difference of the strength in visual bullets between the both of them shooting.
Mm-hmm. Veld proceeds to go to the hangar housing the weapons, while Tseng is tasked to go to the control room assignment to locate and delete all files related to the weapons. As Tseng erases the digital records, anti-Shinra operatives break in, and just to clarify, this is not Avalanche, they're just other anti-Shinra people. So anti-Shinra operatives break in, making off with a hard copy of the backup data. Meanwhile, in the ship's cargo hold, Veld encounters an army of proto-golems, which are like the giant armored like huge armored machinery that is Shinra. You've most likely battled them before. And also, yes, baby Tseng, absolutely, yes,
He's very baby.
He is very baby. And you know what the fun thing is too is that when I was on the Before Crisis website and I was translating the things for Tseng, they were like, he is an emotional Turk, and I'm like, it's just funny because people who've only played Remake have not seen how he is. They only see him as cold and kind of analytical and logical. But if you've seen him in like OG, then you're like, damn, he's kind of an asshole. But then if you played him in Crisis Core, he's like, oh, he's actually got a little bit more human in him. But in Before Crisis, he is an emotional baby who literally gets bullied to fuck off with his emotions.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Upon approaching the Shinra weapons, the golems come to life and launch an attack on him. Observing Veld's predicament through security monitors, Tseng offers to assist, but Veld insists that Tseng must complete his task, emphasizing his Turk responsibilities. So Tseng is like sitting there watching on the monitors, being like, I'll come to you, sir. And he's like, did you finish your fucking task? And he's like, not yet. And he's like, then go fucking finish it. So Tseng internally reminds himself to stay focused on the job and not let Chief Veld down. As Tseng defeats the intruder and destroys the backup file, he arrives just in time to aid Veld. Veld inquires about the mission, and Tseng confirms the successful completion of his part.
Yes. And then together, they engage in a fierce battle, overcoming the multitude of machines. After defeating the weapons, Veld expresses gratitude to Tseng for his assistance, to which Tseng responds, "No need to thank me. It was the only thing to do." Veld congratulates Tseng on a successful mission, and their next objective is to uncover the internal traitor's location. However, a crew member spots them on security and triggers an explosion to sink the ship along with the Turks. With only 30 seconds on the timer to escape, as the ship sinks, the ceiling collapses, trapping Tseng beneath a steel girder. Tseng insists that Veld needs to escape. Together they engage in a fierce battle, overcoming the multitudes of machines. After defeating the weapons, Veld expresses gratitude to Tseng for his assistance, to which Tseng responds, "No need to thank me. It was the only thing to do." Veld congratulates Tseng on a successful mission, and their next objective is to uncover the internal traitor's location. However, a crew member spots them on security and triggers an explosion to sink the ship along with the Turks. Within only 30 seconds on the timer to escape, as the ship sinks.
God, I hate timers in games.
I know.
Even though this one, watching it, I was like, oh, you needed 10 seconds, you're fine.
The ceiling collapses, trapping Tseng beneath a steel girder, which I like. And the whole thing we're watching it, how the ceiling collapses, hits him and locks him in there, and then hits another one and crushes his head, but he's still talking.
He's still talking. You're like, you're watching Tseng just getting crushed alive, and he's like, oh, but he's still alive.
It's fine.
Great.
Tseng insists that Veld needs to escape, prioritizing the mission to find the traitor. Veld retorts, "Wrong." You still don't understand the meaning of those words, which we're like, okay,
We're
gaslight.
like, what the fucking gaslight bullshit is this, Veld?
Yeah, because he's trying to prove, like, Tseng, like, you don't know what being a Turk really is. Mid rescuing Tseng, another piece of the ship's debris falls and strikes Veld's face, causing facial scarring. Yet he pushes through to save Tseng. So you see Veld before his face, but people see or know Veld with his facial scars, so you know that he got it because he was actually there to save Tseng.
Yes, absolutely. So the narrative then circles back around yet to the beginning when Veld instructs Tseng to cast aside his doubts and stand proud once more because he is a Turk. So some days pass and Veld wakes up in intensive care, finding Tseng by his side, apologizing upon noticing the scars on Veld's face from the rescue mission. Tseng expresses concern. Veld dismisses the worry, noting that the incident granted him some much-needed time off, which pleased his daughter Felicia, because he didn't really get a lot of chance to spend time with her. When Tseng questions why Veld saved him, Veld assures him that since the mission was successful in uncovering evidence of the traitor, they both survived. So Tseng's remarks on Veld's recklessness prompting Veld to comment, "You're starting to sound like me. I suppose I'm still too soft as well." Grateful, Tseng thanks him and internally reflects that he desires to become a Turk just like Chief Veld. Encouraging Veld to rest, Veld says he cannot, given the traitor's presence is near Calm, considering that Calm is where Veld's wife and child reside. Tseng suggests that Veld spend time with his daughter, but Veld declines, stating there's plenty of time for that. Then the chapter continues as it gears up for the next segment in the timeline, attempting to neutralize the traitor. It ends with a grave mistake. The repercussions will then unfold around chapter 13 when we find the truth of what happened with the traitor and with Calm.
Womp womp.
So
yeah, that was episode Tseng, and I guess Veld as well, but it is specifically Tseng.
Yeah.
Which was, it was the newer episode or one of the newer ones?
It was one of the later episodes that was added on. So it kind of also explains like the scarring that had happened to Veld's face, etc. That kind of stuff. Because originally, I mean, he didn't have it. There's some pretty... Actually, we'll go ahead and show you some of the old images
from that episode.
From that episode of... Oops, that is the wrong one. Oh, I forgot. In Air Guys, the fighting one, you can fight a Zack as well. Yippee. I was just going to show off Veld real quick.
Show off the director. Is there one without his scar? Oh, that's the
yes,
young one?
Yes.
Or no?
No, there is one without a scar. And
okay.
It's going to be... Originally, it's going to be... Oh, Jesus, it's so tiny.
Well,
anyways, here's a crispy ass image. So here's the director.
There he is. Here's the original director. Well, I guess the original. That's Big Papa.
That's Big Papa right there. And then pretty much it goes over from that to he has a scar on his face. Yeah. Yahoo, yahoo.
So everyone knows.
And he also gets older.
Yes, everyone knows what he looks like with a scar.
So
not everyone knew why he had a scar in the first place, because he was there to protect and save Tseng.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is the original director before Tseng, and then Tseng was vice director. And then only as a nice added bonus, we're gonna throw in some young Veld because everyone wants to see. So handsome.
Oh, he's just like.
Thank you, baby. Thank you for deleting it. You're cool. So yeah, his handsome baby Veld. To also kind of educate you a little bit too, Veld had a Turk partner too.
He did.
Do you want to? Before, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys can guess it, but if you guys can guess, who exactly is Veld's partner?
Who is it?
Veld is one of the oldest Turks. Clearly, he's probably been there since the beginning of Shinra when they needed Turks.
Yes.
So he has been a Turk around the development of Shinra, which was in the 70s. But
you got it.
Yep. Vampire Man. No.
Correct. It is Vampire Man.
Yeah, it is Vincent Valentine.
Show off the Turk.
Oh shit,
Turk
you
Vincent.
Fucking right though.
Yeah. He's so
Turk
beautiful. Vinny. Look at them. They're partners.
They're kissing. Hold on, I'm gonna delete Veld. So yeah. So we hear some Turk Vincent. Vincent was one of the OG Turks too, and then he got by Hojo.
Are
we
covering that at all? Like, when it comes to Vincent?
We'll be. I mean, there is very brief mention about Vincent's stuff in Before Crisis. Like you run into him, and he's like, "Hello, partner." He's like, "Sup?" He's like, "Nothing. I'm sleeping." He's like, "Okay, bye." Like literally, that's it. That's pretty much it. You touch on it, you're like, "All right, tight." They'll yeet out of the chat. Yeah, he's canceled. Get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here.
You want to hear the most cursed thing I could possibly say about Vincent?
Do it.
Because he's immortalized at the age of 27, right? But he is a, I hate to say it, but he's also he's a boomer.
Correct. He is an immortalized boomer.
Yeah.
At least he's beautiful, right?
Oh yeah. No, canonically, I think he was born in 1950. So yeah, there you go. I said the curse thing. You're welcome. You all lust after someone who's from the baby boomer era. And I'm doing this / not derogatory towards boomers. I'm just saying that.
So is Veld, yes.
And so is Veld.
Veld acts like one.
Veld does act like a derogatory one.
He does. Wrong. You still don't understand the meaning of those words.
Yes. Wrong. I was like, bro, why are you telling Tseng you're like wrong? You don't understand the meaning of those words, but like, what are you talking about?
It's because like, I mean, did you ever write down like what it means to be a Turk? Like what is?
Yes, what it means to be a Turk is that you do everything in Shinra's interest, and you do the mission first, and everything else is secondary.
Yeah.
So say that it's like Reno and Rude are out on a mission, but something is compromising Rude, but like Reno's almost there to completing it. Like he has to go, sorry, Rude, bye, and go and focus on the job.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here, Vincent.
Bye. Yeeted.
Yeeted.
I wish you can like launch it.
I could have, but I just didn't feel like it.
It's like flick him away.
Yeah, so pretty much it's very interesting kind of seeing like this little bit of actual old Tseng lore.
Yes.
Is just he is actually way more emotional and way more caring about people's lives than what he is told to do. So when it comes to being a Turk, like you're supposed to just say, sorry, man, shit out of luck. I'm here to do whatever's in best of like Shinra's interest.
Correct.
So if you want to reflect on it, and I don't want to go too much in it because Tseng will have his own episode.
Yes.
Which unfortunately probably won't be for another few weeks. But he will be the first Turk that we will be discussing.
Classic Tseng being last place as always. And
he's going first, actually, out of all of the Turks.
Wow.
Legend's going last.
He fucking deserves it.
Yeah, so pretty much kind of like showcasing and looking like even though it was a very short special episode for Tseng, because not gonna lie, most of the Before Crisis shit is just speeding through the fucking redundant battles.
Right.
Which is just like, oh my god, I cannot. Tseng is a lot more emotional, a lot more caring. So, and if you want to look at other examples of like his humanity still being intact, you look at Crisis Core, where technically he's still a vice director when he is out with Zack, and say like they're ordering the airstrike for like Benora, and Zack's like, oh, I gotta go back and I gotta make sure, and he's like, Zack, you're really cutting it close, but I guess like I will pull the strings to try to make this happen, because he wants to make sure that everyone is out and everyone is surviving. Yes. Because he does want that.
I mean, literally we just discussed how Tseng himself was like, I want to save someone over doing a job, which is why he got in trouble, because he finds human life very important.
Absolutely.
And people see him now as being dead inside, but people don't know that he had a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings, and just
which a lot of the time is just, there's so many instances throughout Before Crisis where Veld is lecturing Tseng about not having his emotions get in the way of the job.
Yes.
And there is another example, and I'm just saying it now, and if we should have said it at the beginning, we are not going to be a spoiler-friendly show. We are going to be discussing everything that is older, and yeah, it's not going to be like, there's no Rebirth spoilers on here. Clearly, we haven't played it. We've only played the demo, but we're not here to spoil that. But we are here to tie the lore about it. And I'm sure most of you know that we are going to be here to discuss it. But I'm going to be talking about the Nibelheim incident for just a brief second of when it comes in terms of Tseng's emotions. So canonically, the Turks are the ones that are there to actually clean up Nibelheim. And I know we'll be talking about that chapter when we get to it, but I'll just talk about it in regards to Tseng's emotions. But it gets to a point where you have Tseng, Reno, Rude, and Player Turk and other Turks that are there. And Hojo and Veld are like, okay, clean up this mess. I need you to rebuild this town verbatim. And I need you to gather any survivors. And we're going to bring them over here. we're going to bring him over to the Shinra mansion. It's going to be fine. I promise. We're going to help heal people. But then Veld's like, I'm just letting you know, like, Hojo's not going to be doing that shit. And Tseng and player Turk are like, I don't feel good about this. Like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Like,
yeah, everyone say boo Hojo.
Boo Hojo in the chat.
Boo Hojo.
But essentially, it's just like, it gets to a point where Tseng and them are just like, this feels too dirty. Like, even Reno's like, no. Like, Reno actually still, he holds on to his humanity even throughout fucking remake. Like, it's there. And so Veld gets to the point where he's like, well, this isn't the first time I've had to do this. If you do not feel comfortable doing this, I will not make you do this. I will handle this myself. Yeah. And I don't know, they were like, holy shit, okay. Which totally goes against the reasoning of why you would want to be a Turk in the first place. Because when you are a Turk, you are forced to do things that you are not wanting to do, essentially. Once you become a Turk, the only way out is through a body bag, and that is canon. Yep. Because you pretty much know all the secrets. You know everything that is about it, the cleanup and everything. Yeah. It is just, unfortunately, half the Turks, actually probably more than half the Turks, were forced to becoming Turks.
Yes.
The other half, or the other few, are ones that volunteered. And this isn't going into like hellacious detail that's going to make it like ruined or anything, but the ones I will talk briefly about, which will most likely be brought up again when we do go in depth with the Turks. But you have Reno, Rude, and Cisne, who are all technically orphans who went to the same quote unquote orphanage that was sponsored by Shinra, which made it look face value like it was charitable, but they were actually raising people to be Turks as well as soldiers. And since there's no real history on Tseng, personally for the headcanon for me, I do make him out to be a child of war due to the fact that when the time the Wutai War started, he was canonically 8 years old, and it would just feels like it makes sense due to the fact that he's so close to everyone. He's close to Veld. He's made the second in command. He's also probably gone through all like the training, all this stuff, because to become a Turk, to know how to fly a fucking helicopter, to have all these skills, sharpshooter skills, to have all this incognito, all this espionage, making weapons, making all this stuff, would take years upon years upon years upon training. So that's just kind of where I fit it in when it comes to headcanon. And those are like, we don't put it past Shinra to be training children to become hired killers. So you have those 4 Turks, one that is headcanon to be also, along with Reno, Rude, and Cisne as orphans. Then you also have Gun and Elena, who are sisters, who went to an academy with their father, who
he's a professor.
He was like one of the instructors there. Yeah. Even though they still technically lived in the slums, they still had to attend the academy. And Gun was very much the older sister, and she excels in what she does, but she's very stoic, very cold shoulder. Her and Elena do not get along. Elena is actually training at the academy, and she's like, I don't want to be a Turk. Fuck that. Like, I'm not going to follow my sister's footsteps.
Yeah, they do not go along whatsoever.
Nope. And then eventually there's player Turk. Whoever you decide to choose in Before Crisis runs into Elena at one point and watches the Turk exude their skills, and Elena is then like starry-eyed and being like, actually, being a Turk after all would be pretty cool. I don't want to specialize in firearms like my sister does. And then Elena actually ends up focusing more on martial arts. And so she's actually quite skilled. She's also still a good marksmanship. Like, she is fantastic with the pistol and everything. But honestly, it's still one of those things where it's just like, she is just, if you look at OG Elena, they make her out to be kind of ditzy. Granted, the fact is that they had one translator for all of OG. One translator. And that's why there's goof ups, mess ups, that kind of shit. And, but then you see her and you read her and the kids are all right. You see how much of like a badass she is. She literally will shoot someone without hesitation. She shoots first and asks questions later. I won't devastate, bitch. Pretty much. So I'm really excited to see how she is in Rebirth.
Absolutely.
So
those are the ones who there's more.
Those are like the ones that were kind of like pretty much trained through the academy.
How about the ones that were volunteered?
And then we'll get into the forced ones.
Yeah, that's the last ones.
The ones who volunteered are actually only going to be 2 of them.
Yeah. Martial arts.
No. Actually, no. I think there's 4 of them now. Okay. So it's both martial arts.
Yes. FM, and then we've got nunchuck and then we've got shotgun.
Yes.
He volunteered.
Because Shotgun and Nunchuck are both rich, blonde people, just probably bored. Because I know a lot of, if you're raised that way in a spoiled lifestyle, you probably are so jaded and you want action. So martial arts femme was an ex-soldier, not like soldier, capital soldier, just ex-mercenary, then freelance mercenary. Martial arts M was an ex-detective from Junon. Nunchuck, rich kid,
Just a rich kid.
coming from Bone Village.
He
and
really looked up to the Turks, and he was like, I want to be like you guys.
Essentially, yeah. He
Just
looked
like,
up to the Turks and he's like, yep, I'm going to become one. And it's funny because the Japanese fandom also calls him like the Shoda character, where he's just very like, ooh, woo, but also, I'm probably going to kill the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
And then there's Shotgun, who is an awarded huntress, and most likely she got scouted for her abilities, and then she was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to join. And then we get into the section of Turks that were forced to become Turks.
What about, was Legend forced?
Yes.
Yeah. Katana was forced in because he was actually protecting his best friend, and was it in Gungaga? I don't know. It was somewhere that he was literally protecting his best friend because they did something wrong, and he lost his control.
Everyone's screaming about Katana.
Yeah, best boy.
Best boy.
He's very calm, but he lost control of his emotions and just killed everyone in that.
To save his friend.
Yeah, and so people were like, oh, let's put you to jail for that. And then, so that's when Shinra approached, was like, oh, we saw how insane you were. Why don't you come work for us? Or stick here and rot forever. And so he was kind of
insanely
like,
good.
yeah.
But yeah.
Insanely great.
So Katana pretty much was just like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
But
he got his face scars also when he was trying to save his best friend.
and he's got them on both sides.
Well, yeah,
I think so. I've seen images where it's flipped on either side. It looks like it's there. So whatever, canonic, two scars.
A perfect, beautiful little scar in his face.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of jail torture type of scar too, or something
Maybe.
like that. But you know, that's headcanon shit.
Yep. And then we've got.
But wait, going before Katana. Katana is canonically also a senior Turk, so he's actually been with the Turks probably a little bit more than like Reno, Rude, Song, like
So
that kind of shit.
He's probably like right after Veld.
Yeah,
and then
like so I would say like if Sung is probably like 22, Katana's probably like in his late 20s or something like that. Like that's probably where we're kind of sitting. We don't know. This is headcanon and speculation based off the canon that we know that he is a senior Turk.
Pretty much.
Or a senior member of another faction of Turks, because not all the Turks are going to be at HQ at Midgar. They're spread far and wide throughout the all of Gaia. So
yes. And then we've got Two Guns.
my baby, I love him.
We love Two Guns. He initially was a thug for Don Corneo, for I would say most of his life. And then he got tired of that job. And
who wouldn't?
Yeah, I think he was also approached. He was
approached for his ability, because they say when it comes to Two Guns, you'd be lucky to see the end of his barrel before you get got. Before you get got.
Yes, his skills are that insane, and I think it was canon that he legit got bored of that job. He was not happy, understandably.
Yes.
And Shinra approached and was like, why don't you come work for us? Why don't you come meet the Turk? And he was like, okay. And
okay.
I guess, okay. I think he was just kind of like, all right, I accept wherever I go next.
It's like, which of the two evils do I want? Do I get the evil of seeing pretty much everything, or do I going to keep seeing the shit that Don Corneo keeps doing to unwilling victims?
Everyone say boo Don Corneo.
Yeah,
boo.
everyone say boo Don Corneo.
Boo.
Send him down into the sewers. Ew.
Ew. Don't worry, I take care of it later.
Yeah. Again, spoiler, but
not really spoiler. Well, yes.
I mean, we told you guys this is going to be not spoiler friendly, but if you want to know a fun fact about Don Corneo, there is a side mission that goes to Wutai that you could absolutely miss in the original, that has Don Corneo show the fuck up, steal Yuffie and Elena, dangle them above the cliffs, and so the Turks and Cloud and the gang are all like, hey, let's team up. Let's get this motherfucker. And they're like, cool, whatever. So they did. They saved Elena and they saved Yuffie. And then Reno pushes the Don off the cliff and canonically paralyzes him from the waist down, taking his very precious weapon from him.
Get fucked. but not anymore, bitch.
Yep. So pretty much that, I'm sure that's going to be nice and blown out. I'm so sorry.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed the Reno ASMR of deep throating the mic.
Oh.
And then, let's see. Legend. Legend was also forced to become
A Turk.
He was originally anti-Shinra.
Not Avalanche.
Not Avalanche, just anti-Shinra.
Faction.
He was known as the Death God or the Grim Reaper of the battlefield. Either one of those is correct. And so he specialized in all sorts of weapons, but mainly bombs. So actually, when you were playing him... yeah, we got that poll going of boo! Boo Hojo, boo Don Corneo, boo President Shinra.
Why can't I vote for all of them?
I know, right? I'm going to vote for them all. Thank you. So Legend got scouted. And in fact, what you will be learning in this next episode next week is we'll be discussing special episode Legend and how he actually has history with how he had his run-in with Tseng and how Tseng does not like Legend.
Does not like him.
He has pulled a gun on this man a couple of times where he's just like, what the fuck is he doing here? And Vel's like, whoa, hold on 1 second. We need his assistance because his skills are very good. And Tseng's just like, bitch, I won't fucking hesitate. And Legend's like, I will literally beat your ass, child, if you do not drop that gun the fuck now.
He's like, that's nice, honey.
Yeah, he's like,
pat.
And it's funny because even at that point when you do have to go seek out Legend again because he's put under house arrest in Costa del Sol, he's like, fine, I'll join the Turks again if you can beat me in a battle, Tseng. Spoiler alert, Tseng actually loses, which is really funny. And Legend's like, you gotten better. Sure, I'll come back. Oh, look at that. It's a nice equal booing of everyone who voted. Thank God.
Woohoo, good. Well, they all deserve it.
Yes, thank you all. Perfect. This
Amazing.
Is fantastic. So, yeah, so that's what next week's episode is going to be. We're going to be discussing about special episode Legend, and then most likely we will be getting into the actual timeline of Before Crisis episode 1 and episode 2, because episode 1, not gonna lie, tutorial stage, very small, not a lot of information on it.
I mean, it's still important to have
it is,
anyways.
of course.
You get to meet your players, Turk, whoever you choose, which, again, would you only get to choose shotgun, right?
Shotgun, gun, rod, and 2 guns.
Yeah.
Yes, confess your Legend. Okay. And you know what? You say that Legend is fine, but I drew that one portrait of Legend.
He's kind of fine.
He's kind of fine. I wonder if I have it on here.
Beautiful art.
Thank you. I will see if I have it real quick.
Oh,
no, I just have 2 guns and Tseng on here. I will wait. I'll bring him up some other time. It's fine. I appreciate it. Look, Don Corneo, boo Don Corneo has won. Even though it was a very good, nice split, but there was that one last sneak vote in for booing Don Corneo. He is the scum of the earth.
Correct.
We fucking hate him. Also, fuck Hojo.
Fuck
Hojo. President Shinra, whatever, you did your thing, but you also get got eventually. God, I can't wait to talk about Hojo and how he uploaded himself onto the internet and uploaded himself into an organic person.
He just wants to be on the internet.
He's like, I want to be rich.
Yeah,
but
he wanted to. He was his like ultimate avatar.
Yeah, he glitch trapped himself. He does. Like literally, Hojo he's something. I hate him so much.
I've never seen him on that beach though.
Yeah.
Surrounded by all the girls.
Please. Oh, you know it. Most likely, gear yourselves up for a jump scare of seeing Hojo on the beach at Costa del Sol surrounded by women. So,
please. I mean, he was probably fine as hell back in the day. If his fucking offspring is fine as hell.
Yeah, going back to President Shinra and Hojo and all of them, including Heidegger, Scarlet, all of them, they were all just bright-eyed inventors who were just exploring and experimenting and making things, and that's how Shinra came to be. And eventually, Shinra actually was starting off as a weapons factory or like a weapons builder that actually had a different parent company. And so pretty much after that point, it got to where they said, fuck that, we're going to make our own company. And then they made their own company, brought on a bunch of people, like Hojo, Heidegger, all that kind of stuff. And eventually brought on like Scarlet and Reeve, who are a little younger, but brought them on as well.
Boo Heidegger.
Boo Heidegger. We got a boo Heidegger. Boo Horsey in the chat.
Boo Horsey.
And so, which is really funny because like, yeah, even Heidegger himself, who started to get into it where he originally was like a general for another army, and then he was like, I don't like the way that Shinra's trying to run their army, because the people who were trying to run the army at that time were trying to use President Shinra to like take all their funds and stuff like that, and not really focus on the army and mostly focus on the money. And Heidegger was like, no, I'm gonna make this army run better. It's gonna be me. We're gonna do it. So yeah, I cannot wait to see how it's going to be fun to be able to bully Heidegger and Rebirth when Rufus takes over. And
bully him.
Oh wait, hold on. Get yourself a Reno who will do this on command. And then let's see. Anything else that we gotta cover?
I think that's it. I just thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of Turk Talk.
Yeah, next.
Hopefully we'll have this edited, maybe like just get it out so people can actually watch it and be able to go back and.
We're aiming to try to edit them and have them out within at least a week, so that way by the time the next stream comes around, people can enjoy whatever else we have to say.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we end up missing or end up messing up, I totally love some good correction on any of that. I mean, we are a community together. We're here to help. Our main goal with Turk Talk is to help kind of be like the historians of it, to kind of help talk about things that are missing or connecting the dots. And yes, we'll be pointing out all the plot holes, all that kind of shit. And as well as talking about our own personal headcanons, like how we did earlier. But I like to back up the headcanons with the canon receipts, because obviously there's some things we're just going to have to fill the holes with ourselves.
Correct.
To kind of make sense of it. So next week you can expect to see higher quality video with our DSLR camera instead of our old webcam. It's all that the technology department had for us at this time.
And all the best of the technology internet you can give us right now.
Yeah, dial-up's a little rough down in the basement office, so I appreciate that. It really just kind of adds to the aesthetic.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys for your support, genuinely. Thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you so much. Finally getting able to do this is
so exciting.
A dream come true, honestly.
Aww.
It gives me the fun platform to info dump with my friends and the community and do it with my best friend.
Yeah.
So, I'm just a little bit gay.
Just a little bit.
I mean, a lot. I'm a lot gay. Oh my god, Tseng and Reno kissed. So,
controversial.
Like I said, some weeks you'll see us in cosplay. Some weeks you'll just see us in the suits and we'll just be the director and second in command. Yes. Bring your OC Turks. Or grab a Before Crisis Turk and make it your OC.
Essentially.
And we'd love to hear any of your feedback on it as well. So
absolutely.
Thank you guys. This has been so special. Oh no, gay cooties. Gay cooties.
You get kisses too.
Kisses for you all too. So one more for the road. And there you go.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us. You guys mean the world to us. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.